Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's head coach teleconference for the college football playoff quarterfinal at the Rose Bowl game presented by Prudential. I'm Karen Linhart, the Rose Bowl Games Marketing and Media Director. The Tournament of Roses is thrilled to host the Indiana Hoosiers in this year's Rose Bowl game. We'll be joined today by Indiana head coach Curt Cignetti. Coach Cignetti, I'd like to start by asking you to give a brief opening remark about playing in this year's CFP quarterfinal at the Rose Bowl game.
Yeah, excited to be a part of the playoff, particularly going back to the Rose Bowl. And we've got a long time to prepare, and two heavyweight teams going to slug it out, and we'll find out on the 19th who our opponent will be.
Great. Thank you, Coach. We'll now open up the floor for questions. Please raise your hand to ask a question using the raised hand icon within Zoom. If and when your question is selected, please unmute your microphone and state your name and media outlet before asking your question. Once your question has been answered, your microphone will be muted and your hand will be lowered. We're going to go ahead and open the floor for questions. Our first question comes from Sammy Jacobs.
Good afternoon, Coach. Congratulations on making the Rose Bowl. You guys have been out to Pasadena before to play UCLA. How does this, what are the advantages of playing in that stadium, and how do you embrace, playing in the granddaddy of them all?
Yeah, we have been out there before, like you said, and I'd been out there prior with Alabama when we beat Texas in the national championship. So for a lot of our guys, it'll be a familiar venue. Obviously, it's the granddaddy of them all with a lot of great tradition involving the Big Ten. So we're excited about that. And but at the end of the day, it's a football game, and we'll approach it like every other game we've been, including last night's game. But we'll be looking forward to getting out there.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Mike Schumann.
Yeah, hey coach, congratulations on last night. I asked Roman Hemby last night if he'd still give them the 24-hour rule to put this win last night behind them. He said he wasn't sure, but if you wanted them to come practice today, that they'd all be ready to do it. Curious your reaction to that, and how long are you going to give them to let this one settle?
Well, we have a team meeting tomorrow night at 4:00, so we'll give them 48 hours. And then decide when to hit the practice field next. We've got a couple itineraries sketched out now that we know where we're going. And, we've got about 3.5 weeks to kind of get game ready in terms of mindset and preparation. So, we don't want to start too fast, obviously. And we want to stay sharp with our timing fundamentals, get our guys rested and recovered, get healthy, and so that we're ready to play when the bell rings.
Our next question comes from Jeff Rabjohns.
Yeah, Coach, congratulations. Thanks for your time. So if I were to write a column saying Fernando Mendoza deserves the Heisman, what are key things that you think should be pointed out, maybe beyond just the stats? What are things that, like, maybe you as a coach know, see, understand about Fernando Mendoza that maybe aren't obvious just watching him play football?
Well, first off, I'd have to say it's a no-brainer decision. I believe that. You got to look at his on-the-field production, particularly in the most critical moments of the football game, and how he's performed at the end of the game with the game on the line against Iowa, Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State, and then his overall production numbers. The Heisman, he's a tremendous human being that does everything really the right way in terms of preparation, community outreach, leadership. He got a great relationship with the team. They all look up to him. He cares about people. He's extremely intelligent. He got high character and values. He's been the leader, and he can beat you with his arm and his legs.
Our next question comes from Michael Niziolik.
Yeah, Curt, you mentioned the process for getting ready for the playoffs, especially with the little longer layoff. You kept everything very similar for the Big Ten from the regular season. How do you go about kind of trying to balance, like you said, getting them sharp, but not overdoing it? And did you talk to anybody that's kind of gone through this kind of with the layoff, or how do you approach that? And what does your process look like with scouting Oklahoma and Alabama?
Yeah, well, we'll treat it like a normal off week up until we find out, who our opponent's going to be, and then we'll rev it up a couple notches. And we'll have 11 days really to prepare and be ready to play. And I think 90% of it, we've got on paper and it's common sense stuff. And we've got a few little details in terms of the final 3 days we got to work through yet.
As a reminder, if you have a question, please use the raised hand icon within Zoom. Our next question comes from Zachary Osterman.
Hey, Curt, I guess in that vein, coaches in the past at times have talked about bowl games almost as like a second spring practice in some ways, that there's opportunities to get young guys more reps, that you can rest some older players, and during sort of maybe the early prep time there is more opportunity for young players. Do you think does that work the same way in your mind when you're getting ready for the playoff? Do you think that maybe there are some younger guys that they get maybe just a little bit more kind of frontline time and early preparation while you rest some of the guys that maybe put more snaps in their legs this year? Or is that different from a playoff perspective now?
Yeah, I think that all changes with the playoffs, to be quite honest with you. Your focus is your team, rest and recovery, staying sharp with the fundamentals. Yeah, it's a different day and age and a different philosophy. And I really believe that you start working on next year's team when this season's over.
If anyone has a question, please use the raised hand icon within Zoom. Our next question comes from Michael Niziolik.
Yeah, Kurt, just the second part of that question. I'm sorry I added that there at the end, but just how much scouting will you do of Alabama and Oklahoma personally, kind of film? Like, would you estimate how much you'll watch over the next how many days? 12 days?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring the coaches in a little later tomorrow. We'll watch yesterday's game, get that done. Got a team meeting, present the next 2 weeks to our team what the calendar looks like. I'm sure we'll spend a little bit of time on each team after that, but we have some other things going on too, retention, recruiting, things of that nature. I'm sure we're going to get eyes on both opponent, but once we really find out who that opponent's going to be, that's when we're going to really like hone in.
Our next question comes from Mike Schumann.
Yeah, Coach, you said last night that you got 3.5 weeks to humble this team again. I know that's always top of mind with you, but you've been around this team all year. Do you feel like that's a legit concern with these guys, or do you feel like they're the kind of guys that will be ready when the January 1st gets here?
No, we'll be ready when January 1st gets here. I mean, this is going to be a normal off week for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then once we know who our opponent is, pedal the metal.
Our next question comes from Jeff Rabjohns.
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted to get your take. Your offensive line played well all year. Some different guys had to come in, but not only did they play well, it seemed like just from the watching chair that the play improved. A coach's view, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've not seen last night's game film. I'm actually going to watch it when we're finished with this Zoom here, and I'll start with the offense. We've run the ball pretty consistently this year. We haven't given up too many sacks. The quarterback's mobility has prevented some sacks as well. We got a veteran line. Obviously, Carter Smith was the lineman of the year in the Big Ten, our left tackle. And we played really about 7 guys up front. Last night we got Johnny involved and Baldwin or Benson back involved, and both those guys finished the game. So we've got some flexibility and some options, and I'll be anxious to watch a game tape.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Zachary Osterman.
Curt, I wanted to circle back. You talked about your experience in the Rose Bowl with Alabama, and I know you guys were in the playoff last year, and maybe the timeline moves a little differently and everything, but you've got a team now that's got some time off. You talked, as Mike mentioned last night, about sort of having 3.5 weeks to humble them. There are going to be guys with individual awards and different obligations and things like that. Do you reach back to any of your experiences with Alabama, a team that would have had maybe a lot of that attention, a lot of that potential distraction, and say, this is how we streamline some of that out as we get ready for a game like this?
Yeah, I think some of that stuff lives with me. I don't have like old files that I'll reference. And I kind of approach things on the practice field a little differently than we did down there. Anyhow, I've got, my own philosophy. We don't quite have the depth that we had at Alabama to be able to stay on the field that long and bang that much. When I made that statement last night, that was a little tongue in cheek too. We're going to use these next 2 weeks to our advantage. I've 100% trust in our assistant coaches and our leadership and our players that we'll approach this the right way. We'll be ready to play.
We have a couple of minutes left, but this will be our last call for any questions. All right, well, there's no more further questions. Thank you, Coach, for your time today. We really do appreciate it. That will conclude today's teleconference. To Coach Cignetti, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. We'd also like to thank the media members for calling in. I'd also like to remind you to apply for credentials via Ticket Manager online. Additionally, a transcript and audio from today's call will be made available on the CFP media portal later today. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.